Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are so glad you're here because today we are going to do something a little different. We're going to conduct a bit of time travel.
Yeah, a digital excavation.
Exactly. And I want to start with like a sensory exercise. I want you to close your eyes. Forget your smartphone. Forget the cloud. Forget 5G. I want you to imagine it's late 2004, maybe early 2005. You're sitting in a probably uncomfortable chair. Maybe one of those weird ergonomic kneeling chairs if you're fancy, or just a kitchen chair.
Oh, yeah, I had one of those.
And you're in front of a beige, chunky desktop monitor. You hear the hum of the computer fan, and it's working hard. It sounds like a jet engine taking off.
It really did. A 747 in your bedroom.
You open a web browser. It's probably Internet Explorer, maybe Firefox if you were a bit edgy, and you type in a URL.
And suddenly your screen just explodes.
It's an absolute assault on the senses, isn't it? You're talking glitter graphics. We are talking neon green text on a black background. Or maybe that red text on a dark blue background that just makes your eyes water.
Oh, the worst. You couldn't even read it.
Then the most aggressive part. The part that strikes fear into the heart of anyone trying to browse secretly at work or, late at night. A song starts auto-playing at 100% volume.
And it's always something super emotional, too. It's like some Taking Back Sunday or maybe a little Fall Out Boy.
Yes.
And you're scrambling to find the pause button, but you can't because the page is still loading. The background image is 3 megabytes, and your dial-up connection is just screaming in agony.
And amidst all of that beautiful, beautiful chaos, staring back at you from the corner of the screen is a guy in a white T-shirt. He's got looking over his shoulder, standing in front of a whiteboard, giving you this vague, friendly, slightly mysterious smile.
The friend we all knew. The first friend.
We are talking, of course, about Myspace.
It really is a cultural artifact at this point. It's like finding a pottery shard from ancient Rome, except, the shard is a low-resolution JPEG of a guy named Tom.
It is. But here's the thing, and this is why I am so excited about the massive stack of documents, interviews, and financial reports we have to get through today. We tend to remember Myspace as just a nostalgia trip. The top 8 drama, putting your boyfriend at number 1 and then demoting your best friend to number 3 because she made you mad at lunch.
Right. The politics of the top 8 were brutal.
The emo hair, the struggle of learning just enough HTML to make your profile look cool.
Right. It's remembered as a playground, a digital sandbox. But when you actually strip away all that nostalgia and look at the business history, the server logs, the architectural decisions, and what was happening in those corporate boardrooms, wow, it is a fascinating, brutal case study.
It is not just a story about teenagers posting selfies with their digital cameras. It is a story about how to build a global empire in literally 10 days.
Yeah.
And then how to lose it all to a competitor that was just, boringly clean.
It's a classic business tragedy in the Greek sense. It has everything. It has a hacker origin story that involves the FBI, which, most people have no idea about.
I had no idea.
It has billion-dollar deals that looked like these huge victories, but were actually poison pills. And it has this catastrophic ending involving lost data that I think future historians will probably be weeping over.
So that is our mission today. We're going to trace this timeline from the launch on August 1st, 2003, all the way to the digital ruin state of the site in the 2020s. And we have got some serious aha moments to get through.
We certainly do. I think the thing that stood out to me the most in the deep reading was the origin story of Tom Anderson. You know him as the friendly face, the guy who just wanted everyone to be friends.
Right, just Tom.
But the sources paint a picture of a much more complex, technically gifted character with a bit of a dark past.
Lord Flathead.
We will definitely get to Lord Flathead. That name alone deserves its own deep dive.
It really does. And we also have to talk about the Dragon Horde of lost music. That part of the story, it actually hurts my heart a little bit.
It's a digital burning of the Library of Alexandria. There is no other way to describe it. It's a genuine cultural tragedy.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start at the very beginning. August 2003. To really understand why MySpace exploded the way it did, we have to understand the vacuum it was filling. What did the landscape look like? Because the internet wasn't empty.
No, it wasn't. And the king of the hill, or at least the perceived king at that moment, was Friendster.
Friendster. Wow. I have not thought about Friendster in probably 20 years.
Friendster is basically the grandfather of modern social networking. They had proved the concept. They proved that social networking was a thing. People wanted to connect. They wanted to map out their social graphs online. They wanted to see who their friends were.
It was a revolutionary idea.
A great idea, but Friendster was struggling massively.
Yeah.
The sources point out that while Friendster had all the user interest in the world, it just didn't have the infrastructure. It was agonizingly slow.
The circle of death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'd click on a profile and you'd just wait and wait. And the browser would just spin and spin, and eventually it would time out. It was a deeply frustrating experience for everyone who used it.
And this brings us to the first major misconception. The source is correct. I think a lot of people assume MySpace was this classic garage startup. You know, two guys, a laptop, a garage in Palo Alto, and a dream, right?
Yeah, the Zuckerberg mythology. Or the Steve Jobs mythology.
Right, but that's not the story here.
No, and that is completely wrong. MySpace wasn't a dorm room project. It wasn't a garage project at all. It was born inside a corporate machine. It was a project within a company called Universe.
And Universe wasn't exactly a cool tech company, were they?
Not at all. I mean, if anything, they were kind of the villains of the early internet in some people's eyes. They were a digital marketing company.
Okay, what does that mean in 2003 terms?
To be blunt, they were spammers. They were in the business of direct marketing, email lists, affiliate links. They were the guys sending you emails about, weight loss pills or refinance your home now or punch the monkey to win an iPod.
I remember Punch the Monkey. I clicked that monkey so many times I never won the iPod.
Nobody won the iPod, that's the thing. Oh. But that was their business. They understood attention and they understood databases. So these digital marketers are sitting in their office in Los Angeles and they see Friendster blowing up. They see everyone in the office trying to use Friendster and everyone complaining about it.
So they see Friendster and they see two things. First, they see the incredible viral potential. But second, because they're technical guys, they see the flaw. They see that Friendster is broken.
They realized they could clone the features, profiles, photos, connections, comments, but fix the engine. They wanted to take the concept of Friendster but make it actually, load.
And this leads us to the 10-day sprint. This is one of those stats that just blows my mind every single time I read it. The sources say the first working version of MySpace was built and ready for launch in just 10 days.
10 days. That is an absurd speed. I mean, even today, with all our AI tools and frameworks, launching a full social network in 10 days is a ridiculously heavy lift. Back then, it was completely unheard of.
How is that even possible from a coding perspective? What were they doing so differently?
Well, it all comes down to the tech stack. This is a crucial detail that often gets overlooked in the sort of pop history version of this story. Friendster was built using something called Java Server Pages, or JSP.
Okay, let's get a little technical for a second. Break that down for us. What is JSP?
At the time, Java was considered the gold standard for serious enterprise-level software. It's robust, it's strict, it's very scalable if you build it perfectly, but it's also really heavy. It takes a lot of code to do simple things. It requires a lot of server resources.
So it's powerful but cumbersome.
Exactly. And Friendster's implementation of JSP was just buckling under the load. Every time they wanted to change a feature or fix a bug, it was a massive engineering effort. It was like trying to turn an aircraft carrier.
So Friendster is trying to steer a cruise ship through a narrow canal.
Right. A very slow, very heavy cruise ship. Meanwhile, the team at Universe, led technically by a guy named Krista Wolf and his team, they decided to go a completely different route. They didn't use the serious language, they used Cold Fusion.
Cold Fusion. Now that is a name I have not heard in a very, very long time. It sounds like a nuclear physics term or maybe a bad 80s sci-fi movie.
It does. It's a bit of a relic now, but back in 2003, Cold Fusion was designed for exactly what its name implies. Rapid reaction. It was a scripting language built for rapid application development.
So like a quick and dirty way to build a website.
Kind of. Think of it like this. If Friendster was building a house by handcrafting every single brick from clay and letting it kiln dry for days, MySpace was building a house using giant prefabricated concrete blocks and a staple gun.
It's faster, but maybe a little uglier and less stable.
Exactly. Cold Fusion allowed them to build dynamic, database-driven pages incredibly quickly. It was easier to write, easier to change, and allowed for much, much faster iteration. But computer scientists, the purists, they usually look down on it. It was considered dirty code. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't proper engineering.
But it worked.
But it worked. While Friendster engineers were losing sleep trying to optimize their Java code just to shave milliseconds off load times, the MySpace team could just throw 5 new features at the wall in a single afternoon. You want a music player? Boom, done. You want a top 8 friends list? Boom, done.
And this technical decision, This choice to use cold fusion, it actually ended up shaping the entire culture of the site, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, sources mentioned that the messy look of MySpace wasn't entirely intentional at first. It was a byproduct of this move fast and break things architecture.
This is the happy accident that defined a generation. Because cold fusion was so permissive and the code was, let's say, somewhat loose, they didn't have strict validation on the About Me fields.
What did that mean, strict validation?
It means they didn't clean the input. They discovered that users could literally paste HTML and CSS code directly into their profile bio, and the browser would just render it. It would just display it.
CSS standing for Cascading Style Sheets. The code that tells a website what fonts and colors and backgrounds to use.
Right. Normally, a site like Friendster would block that immediately. They would scrub the input. They would say, no, you can't change our font. You can't change our background color. This is our brand. You live in our house. Friendster wanted what we call a walled garden, a uniform, clean, safe experience.
And MySpace just said, here are the keys to the house.
MySpace's philosophy, partly because they were moving so fast and partly because of who Tom was basically let them do it. If you want to paste a block of code that makes your background a tiling image of glittery skulls, go for it.
I remember the glittery skulls.
If it breaks the layout for someone with a smaller monitor, well, that's not our problem. If it makes the text completely unreadable against your background, that's your choice.
It became the Wild West. But that was the appeal, wasn't it? That chaos was the point.
It was creative ownership. You didn't just fill out a form on MySpace. You built your space. It felt like your room in your parents' house. You could put whatever posters you want on the wall. You could paint the ceiling black. You could play your music way too loud.
That is a perfect analogy. Friendster was a hotel room, clean, standard, completely impersonal. MySpace was your teenage bedroom.
Messy, loud, and totally 100% yours. And for a teenager in 2004, that feeling of ownership was addictive. You would spend hours and hours tweaking your code just to get the perfect border around your profile picture.
Okay, so we have the tech stack, we have the chaotic vibe, but we still need users. And this goes back to Universe being a marketing company. They didn't have to suffer through the cold start problem, did they?
The cold start problem is the death of most social networks. It's a killer. You launch a platform, nobody's there, so nobody joins because, well, nobody is there.
It's a chicken and egg problem.
Right. And MySpace cheated. Or rather, they used their massive unfair advantage.
The email list.
Universe had a database of 20 million email subscribers from their other ventures. Remember, these are the people who signed up for Punch the Monkey or Win a Free Vacation.
20 million. I mean, that is the size of a nation-state of people.
So on day one, or at least in that first week, they could send out a massive email blast. Hey, check out this new site. They forced viral growth. They lit a match and then poured a giant bucket of gasoline on it immediately. They didn't wait for word of mouth. They manufactured it.
The sources also mentioned they gamified it internally within the company.
They did. They held contests in the LA office. Who can get the most people to sign up? They were bringing people into the office parties, models, DJs, club promoters, and taking photos of them and then saying, hey, to see these photos, you have to log into MySpace.
That is classic growth hacking, before the term growth hacking even existed. It's brilliant.
It was incredibly aggressive, but it worked. It populated the site with cool people right from the start.
There's another sliding doors moment in this early phase that I think is so critical. The dispute over the business model. This could have gone a completely different way.
This part is fascinating to me. So Chris DeWolf, the CEO, looked at what they had built, and essentially it was file storage. Hosting photos costs money. Bandwidth costs money. Servers cost money. So he suggested maybe we should charge a subscription fee, like a dating site. Maybe $5 or $10 a month.
Can you even imagine? If MySpace had been behind a paywall in 2003.
It would be a footnote in history. Nobody would have joined. We would probably be talking about Friendster today or maybe some other site that came along. But Brad Greenspan, who was the chair of Universe, he vetoed it. He slammed the door on that idea. He understood the network effect. He knew that to build a real community, you need zero friction. You have to let everyone in.
It seems so obvious now. I mean, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they're all free. But back then, the freemium model wasn't really the standard.
No, not at all. Paying for online services was common. AOL cost money. Match.com cost money. So Greenspan's decision to keep it free and ad-supported was the catalyst that allowed that viral growth to just go nuclear.
So we have the engine, the fuel, and the open road. But we also have driver. We have a face. We have Tom. Everyone knows the photo. The whiteboard, the smile, the looking back over the shoulder. But the sources give us this incredible backstory that I honestly had absolutely no idea about. We need to talk about Lord Flathead.
This is where the story just turns into a bit of a techno thriller. Tom Anderson wasn't just a smiling face in a t-shirt. He wasn't just a generic tech bro. In his teenage years, living in Escondido, California, he was a legitimate, high-level computer hacker.
Lord Flathead. That was his handle, his online name.
That was his pseudonym in the hacker underground. And he wasn't just, defacing school websites or changing his grades. In the mid-1980s, he hacked into the computer system of Chase Manhattan Bank.
Wait, a major global financial institution. That is not child's play.
No, we're talking about a massive bank. He navigated their security, got deep into the system, and he showed his friends. He created a fake account. He was just exploring the mainframe of this huge corporation.
I know.
And then the FBI showed up.
An FBI raid? Seriously?
Their sources confirm it. A full FBI raid on his parents' house. Can you imagine being a teenager in Escondido and having federal agents knocking on your door, seizing your computers?
That's terrifying.
Because he was a minor at the time, he was just a teenager. He was spared the harshest punishments, like federal prison. But his equipment was seized, he was put on probation. This was a serious federal incident. He was almost prosecuted under these new hacking laws that were just coming into effect.
That is just wild. So the guy who created the friendliest, most open place on the internet, the guy who was everyone's first friend, started out as a black hat hacker breaking into banks.
It creates this fascinating contrast, doesn't it? On one hand, you have the corporate image of Myspace-friendly, open, safe-ish. On the other, the actual DNA of the founder is someone who deeply understands systems, who understands how to break rules, and who has a profound technical literacy.
It explains so much about the product philosophy we talked about earlier, the whole allow the users to hack their own profiles thing.
Yeah.
That feels like a hacker's philosophy.
Exactly. Here's the code. Do what you want with it. A walled garden, like Friendster or later Facebook, is a very corporate idea. It says, we control the experience. Tom's approach was more like, the system is yours to manipulate. It's very anti-establishment, even though it became this billion-dollar establishment.
But the corporate world didn't always love that approach, did they?
No. Not at all. There is a very telling quote in the source material from a News Corp executive later on after the acquisition. They described Tom not as a visionary, but as a complete bottleneck.
Ouch. Why a bottleneck? That's a harsh word.
Because he cared too much about the product details. He didn't want to just ship features to make money. He wanted the product to feel right. He was deeply protective of the community and the user experience. In the corporate world, wanting to refine a feature rather than just launching it immediately to juice revenue numbers, that is seen as obstruction. He was the no man in a company of yes men.
It's a classic tension, right? The creative founder versus the suits. And speaking of the suits, we are now moving into the era of big, big money. Section 3, the peak.
The year is 2005. MySpace is growing exponentially. We are talking 16 million monthly users by the middle of 2005. It is the hottest thing on the entire internet. It's where culture is happening. Bands are breaking on MySpace. Trends are starting there. Tila Tequila is happening.
And naturally, the media giants start circling. They see the eyeballs, they see the engagement, and they want to own it.
It turns into a bidding war. On one side, you have Viacom. They own MTV.
Which feels like the natural home, right? MySpace was all about music. MTV was music television. It fits perfectly.
It would have been a perfect cultural fit. You can just imagine it. MTV could have integrated MySpace into TRL and their other shows. It made so much sense. But then Rupert Murdoch and News Corporation come in from the top rope.
They dropped $580 million.
$580 million in cash. At the time, Silicon Valley was shocked. They thought Murdoch had massively overpaid. They thought he was crazy. But very, very quickly, it looked like the bargain of the century. Within a year, analysts were saying MySpace was worth triple that amount.
It looked like Murdoch had pulled off a masterstroke. He beat Viacom. He owned the internet's biggest property. He was the king of old media and new media.
But there is a painful what-if moment right around here, a major fork in the road.
The Facebook meeting.
Yes. In February 2005, just before the News Corp sale, a young Mark Zuckerberg met with Chris DeWolf. Facebook was just a college directory at that point. It wasn't open to the public yet, but it was growing like a weed on campuses. And Zuckerberg offered to sell Facebook to MySpace.
That was the asking price.
$75 million.
$75 million for Facebook. That's unbelievable to even say out loud. I mean, today, Facebook or Meta is worth, what, hundreds and hundreds of billions?
And DeWolf said no.
He passed.
He passed on it. Now, we have to be fair. We have to look at this with 2005 eyes, not 2026 eyes.
Sure, hindsight is 2020.
In 2005, $75 million for a college directory when you are the undisputed king of the world. It seems high. DeWolf probably thought, why would we buy them? We are crushing them. We have 16 million users. They have a fraction of that. We can just crush them. We can launch Myspace College tomorrow and wipe them out.
Hubris. It's a powerful, powerful drug.
It is the fatal flaw in almost every single business tragedy. Underestimating the scrappy competitor, thinking you are invincible just because you're big.
So News Corp owns Myspace. They are riding high. And then in August 2006, they signed the deal. The deal that many experts, including the ones in our sources, say was the real beginning of the end, the Google deal.
This is the golden handcuffs.
Explain the terms for us, because on the surface, $900 million sounds like an absolute win.
It was a $900 million deal spread over 3 years. In exchange, Google gets exclusive rights to provide search results and, more importantly, advertisements on Myspace.
On paper, that sounds amazing. They just bought the company for $580 million, and now they are getting $900 million just for letting Google put some ads up. It's pure profit. They've already made their money back, and then some.
That's exactly how News Corp saw it. We won. We are business geniuses. But there was a catch, a huge catch. The deal had very strict performance targets. To get that full $900 million payout, Myspace had to generate a specific massive number of ad impressions and searches every quarter.
Ah, so they had a quota.
A massive, unyielding quota. And this is the so what of the entire story. This is the mechanism of the downfall. To hit those numbers, Myspace had to turn the entire site into a giant, blinking billboard.
They needed more pages, more pop-ups, more banner ads, more everything.
Exactly. They couldn't just have a clean profile page anymore. They needed to shove 3 banner ads, a sponsored search bar, and a pop-up video right into the user's face. They had to break up content onto multiple pages just to get more clicks and serve more ads.
I remember this era so vividly. The site became physically slower. It was heavy. My browser would crash all the time. And it was just ugly. It felt like walking into Times Square, but everything is screaming at you at once.
It was just clutter, visual noise, and this is the crucial context. While Myspace was busy trying to please News Corp and Google by jamming ads into every available pixel, what was Facebook doing?
Facebook was clean. So clean. Blue and white, no clutter.
Minimalist, fast, and focused entirely on user engagement, not ad impressions. Facebook wasn't trying to sell you a ringtone. They were trying to help you find your friend from high school. They were trying to help you tag a photo of your friends from the party last night.
It's a fundamental difference in strategy, isn't it? Myspace was optimizing for revenue to satisfy a corporate contract. Facebook was optimizing for utility to satisfy the user.
And in the long run, the user always wins. A former executive mentioned in the sources that they were paralyzed. They couldn't clean up the site design because if they removed an ad slot to make the page look better and load faster, they would miss their revenue target and lose the Google money.
They were completely trapped by their own success.
They sold their user experience for $900 million. They took the short-term cash, and in doing so, they sacrificed the long-term viability of the entire product.
That sets the stage perfectly for Section 4, the fall. We're looking at 2008 and 2009 now. This is where the lines on the graph finally cross.
The data points from this period are just brutal. In April 2008, Facebook overtakes Myspace and Alexa rankings globally for the first time. By May 2009, Facebook has more unique U.S. visitors. The king is dead.
Why did it happen so fast, though? We talked about the ads, but there was a deeper strategic difference, too, right? The sources talk about the portal strategy versus the network strategy.
This is a bit of business theory, but it's so crucial to understanding the internet at that time. Myspace, under News Corp's direction, tried to become a portal.
Like Yahoo or AOL in the 90s.
Exactly. They wanted to be a destination where you go to consume content. They launched Myspace TV, Myspace Records, Myspace News. They wanted you to come to Myspace to watch celebrity gossip videos and listen to the new Britney Spears single. They wanted to be an entertainment hub.
They wanted to be a TV station or a magazine.
Right. But Facebook focused on being a utility, a communication network. They weren't trying to sell you a band or a video. They were trying to reduce the friction of talking to people. They introduced the news feed. They introduced photo tagging. They made it easier to be social.
They were adding quality of life features.
That's the perfect way to put it. MySpace added features to improve entertainment consumption. Facebook added features to improve social connection. And it turns out, on a social network, people want to be social. They don't just want to be broadcast at.
It's a shocking concept, I know. But there was another factor driving people away, and it is a dark one. We have to talk about the safety crisis.
The sources use a very intense phrase here, one that really stuck with me: vortex of perversion.
That phrase sounds like something from a Victorian moral panic pamphlet.
It actually comes from Richard Blumenthal, who was the Attorney General of Connecticut at the time. There was this massive moral panic that swept the media in 2006 and 2007.
I remember the news reports, all the Dateline NBC-style stuff, To Catch a Predator. The dominant narrative was that MySpace was a hunting ground for adults targeting minors.
And to be fair, there were legitimate issues. Because MySpace allowed anonymity, remember, you could be Lord Flathead or Sparkle Pony 2000, and because the age verification was very loose, it was incredibly difficult to police. The spam filters were weak. It just felt unsafe. It felt creepy. You would get messages from bots or from people who clearly weren't who they said they were.
And Facebook, from the very beginning, required real names.
That was the killer differentiator. At first, you needed a .edu email address, which meant you were a real college student. Then, even when they opened it up to everyone, they enforced a real name policy.
It created a sense of accountability.
It created trust. For parents and for users who were just tired of random spam bots and creepy messages, Facebook became the sanctuary. The vortex of perversion label stuck to MySpace like tar, and it drove the key 18 to 24-year-old demographic away in droves. They graduated from the chaotic high school playground of MySpace to the safer, cleaner college campus of Facebook.
Now, before we move to the total collapse, there is one more theory mentioned in the sources that I find fascinating, the calculated takedown theory. This comes from Tim Vanderhook, who was a later CEO of MySpace after the fall.
Right. This is a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but it has some strong business logic behind it. He alleges that Google actually used its acquisition of YouTube to systematically kill MySpace.
Walk us through that, because MySpace and Google were partners, right? They had the $900 million deal.
They were partners on paper. But you have to remember, MySpace's lifeblood, especially with musicians, was music and video. It was the place for bands. If you wanted to hear the new song by The Killers, you went to their MySpace page.
Right. The MySpace music player was iconic.
Vanderhook argues that Google, once they bought YouTube for $1.65 billion, started manipulating its own search results. They started steering all search traffic for music and video away from MySpace and towards YouTube, effectively starving MySpace of its main attraction.
So if you searched for a band on Google, instead of their MySpace page popping up first, which you used to, the YouTube link for their music video would pop up.
Precisely. And since MySpace was locked into that deal where Google provided their on-site search as well, they were essentially partnered with the very company that was cutting off their oxygen supply. They were paying the assassin.
That is just ruthless corporate strategy.
Whether it was a calculated takedown or just Google's algorithm naturally favoring its own superior video platform is up for debate. But the effect was exactly the same. MySpace lost its dominance in entertainment. YouTube became the video player of the internet. MySpace became, well, nothing.
So users are leaving in droves. Advertisers are fleeing. The site is buggy and slow. It is 2011. The party is officially over.
The exodus was brutal. In March 2011, the stats showed MySpace lost 10 million users in a single month.
10 million in a month. That is a free fall. That's an evacuation. That is not user churn. That is a full-blown disaster.
It's a ghost town, and News Corp wants out. Rupert Murdoch, who had publicly called the purchase a huge mistake, puts it up for sale. He basically says, get this thing off my books. I don't care what we get for it.
They bought it for $580 million. What did they sell it for?
Approximately $35 million.
Oh, my goodness. From 580 down to 35.
From a valuation peak of, at one point, they thought it was worth $12 billion, down to selling for $35 million. That is just pennies on the dollar. It is a 99% loss of value. It is one of the biggest destructions of shareholder wealth in modern tech history.
Who bought it? I mean, who would even buy a sinking ship like that?
A company called Specific Media, and here's a fun fact, Justin Timberlake.
JT?
Yes. Justin Timberlake took an ownership stake. They tried to pivot purely into a music discovery platform, basically admitting defeat and saying, we aren't a social network anymore, we are a music site, we are going to be Spotify before Spotify.
And it didn't work.
It did not work. But that brings us to perhaps the most tragic part of this entire deep dive, Section 6, the digital burning of Alexandria.
This happened much later. This is 2019. By this point, MySpace is a complete zombie site. But it still holds this massive, invaluable archive. Millions of bands, garage bands, emo bands, hip-hop artists, they all uploaded their tracks to MySpace from 2003 to 2015. For many of them, it was the only copy they had.
It was a time capsule of an entire era of music.
And then the news breaks.
A server migration gone wrong.
Oops.
Oops, doesn't quite cover it. They announced that due to a technical error during a server move, all user content uploaded between 2003 and 2015 was wiped out, corrupted, gone forever.
How much did we lose? Give me the scale of this.
Over 50 million songs.
50 million. That is a staggering number. That is more songs that are currently on Spotify.
By 14 million different artists, plus all the photos, all the videos, all the angsty blog posts, gone.
That is just devastating. I mean, think about the cultural history. The early demos of bands that became huge. My Chemical Romance, Katy Perry, Arctic Monkeys, all started there. But maybe more importantly, the millions of bands that never made it. The local scenes, the high school bands, the bad poetry, all of it just deleted.
There was a lot of skepticism at the time, as you can imagine. Some experts speculated, was this really a botched migration, or did they just not want to pay the server costs to host 50 million dead songs anymore?
It is a convenient excuse, isn't it? Oh no, we accidentally lost the data we were paying millions of dollars at store.
The official line remains a botched migration, but the result is the same. A massive chunk of early 2000s musical and internet culture just vanished overnight. It's like if a library burned down, but nobody noticed for years until they tried to check out a book.
But there is a tiny glimmer of hope. The Dragon Horde.
Yes, the Internet Archive, the absolute heroes of the web.
Bless them.
Apparently, an anonymous academic group had been downloading MP3s from Myspace between 2008 and 2010 for some kind of research study. They had managed to grab about 490,000 songs before they stopped.
Okay, so 500,000 out of 50 million. It's 1%.
It's 1%, but it's something. They uploaded this entire collection to the Internet Archive, calling it the Myspace Dragon Horde. So if you were in a band in 2009, there's a tiny, tiny chance your song survived in the Dragon Horde. But for most, it is just silence.
That is a very heavy lesson in digital permanence, or the lack thereof. We assume that because something is on the internet, it is forever.
It is written in sand, not in stone. If the server bill isn't paid or someone makes a mistake, the history just disappears.
So, MySpace is effectively dead as a cultural force. The data is gone. The users are gone. But what about the man? What about Tom?
This is my favorite part of the story. In Silicon Valley, the narrative is usually founder builds company, founder stays on as CEO forever, founder testifies before Congress, founder tries to build a rocket to Mars or buy an island or fight a cage match.
Right. They can't let go. They need the power. They need the relevancy. They need to be the guy.
Tom Anderson let go.
Where is he now? What is he doing?
He took his money. Remember, he cashed out in that original sale to News Corp, and he effectively retired in 2009. He didn't start another company. He didn't become a venture capitalist.
And he is not sitting on a board of directors. He's not an angel investor screaming on Twitter.
No, he is a landscape photographer.
Landscape photographer. That is the most wholesome, unexpected twist imaginable.
If you look him up on Instagram now, he travels the world. He's in Thailand, Myanmar, the Maldives, Burning Man. And he takes these incredibly beautiful, serene photos of nature. Waterfalls, mountains, deserts.
That sounds genuinely lovely. Like a good life.
There is a quote from him in the sources that I think sums it up perfectly. He said, "I like the idea that anything can happen. Adventure in the unknown has always been appealing to me." He explicitly said he has no interest in returning to the tech grind. He saw what it did to people and wanted no part of it.
He escaped. He won the game.
He really did. He built the biggest thing in the world, sold it at the absolute peak, and walked away before the world turned on him. He preserved his sanity. He preserved his anonymity, for the most part.
Meanwhile, the site itself.
The site today is a digital ruin. As of late 2024, it is still online, but in read-only mode. Most images are broken links. The music player doesn't work. It is like walking through an abandoned mall where the mannequins have all fallen over and there is a thick layer of dust on everything.
That's a spooky image.
It really just stands as a monument to what was.
So let's bring this all together. What does this deep dive really tell us? We started with the mission to see this as a business case study.
I think the summary is this. Speed wins in the beginning. Cold fusion, the 10-day sprint, that allowed them to beat Friendster. Being fast is better than being perfect at the start, but sustainability wins in the end. MySpace won the sprint but lost the marathon because they sacrificed their user experience for short-term revenue with that Google deal.
And they let technical debt accumulate until the site was buggy and unusable. They stopped caring about the person sitting in the chair.
Exactly. Facebook won because they played the long game on utility, on trust, and on clean, fast design. They understood that the product is the network, not the ads you can cram onto the page.
And for the listener, why should you care about a dead social network from 20 years ago?
I think the lesson is about your data. We trust these platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, with our memories, our music, our entire lives. But if 12 years of music can vanish from a major platform like Myspace overnight, what guarantees do you really have for your cloud storage? For your photos?
That is a chilling thought. Back up your photos, folks. Hard drives are cheap. Memories are priceless. Don't rely on the cloud to be there forever.
Absolutely. Print your photos. Buy the vinyl record. Have a physical copy.
I want to end with a final thought, something for you to chew on. We live in an era of tech billionaires who seem obsessed with power, with influence, and with shaping the future of humanity, often in very controversial ways. We have Elon buying Twitter to change public discourse. We have Zuck building the metaverse.
The titans trying to rule the world from their fortresses.
And then we have Tom. Tom Anderson was the face of the biggest website on earth. He was arguably the first influencer. He had hundreds of millions of friends. And yet he walked away to live a quiet, creative life, taking pictures of sunsets.
He chose happiness over power.
Exactly. So the question I'm left with is, in the grand, chaotic history of the internet, is Tom actually the smartest one of them all?
I think he might be. I really do.
That is it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.